Good morning, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Thursday, April 8th. It is 6:40 as I'm starting the video. Taking a quick look at futures. S&P futures up 0.4%. NASDAQ off to a strong start, up 1%. Small caps up 0.7%. Oil off 0.8%, gold and silver flat, and copper up about 0.5%. Okay, this morning what I want to do is, of course, go through the indexes and the FATMAAN names. Then I want to take a look at relative performance between the NASDAQ and the Russell. And also I want to revisit the ARK family of funds because I think there's some interesting developments there that I want to share. So, yesterday, mostly a digestion day, at least on the index level. Here we're at the SPY 2-hour chart, and you can see we're just kind of flagging here after digesting, this strong move. And I think as far as the charts go on smaller time frames, on SPY, it's all about 405.50. As long as this level holds in here, I think the short-term bulls are fine. If we lose that level, then we're probably going to come back and test this gap and possibly fill it, etc., etc. And that wouldn't be anything too very much far out of the normal. I mean, we have had a strong run. We haven't had any kind of pullback yet. So I wouldn't, if you're a short-term trader, I wouldn't just let that happen and, not either get out of your longs or take advantage of it, because even just eyeballing a 38% pullback off of this level, we could easily come back into the 400, 397 area, back test that original breakout, which was right here. And then that would be just, a run-of-the-mill breakout, back test, and then go. But that's, $6-7 lower, and you don't want to just, sit by and watch that happen with your, with your longs. So I would be hyper focused on 405.50, and as long as that holds, I mean, it's all good. And the one thing I really like about this setup, at least from a bullish perspective, is this momentum reset. I try to point it out every time that I see it. We had a momentum peak here, which is what you'd expect on a big impulsive move. And now during this consolidation, momentum is coming out, but you can see that it's flattening, and it's flattening just above the zero line. If this can flatten out, price hold 405.50, and then start curling up, that's when you can look forward to a reacceleration of the move to the upside. And hopefully RSI would support the move also by not losing 50. You don't want to lose 50 on RSI, and you don't want PPO to go below zero. That would signal to me, pullback time. But as long as this stays above zero, as long as this flattens out and starts curling up, then I think you can look for higher prices. And we talked about it yesterday, but if you just use this as a flagpole, a bull flag, here's your flagpole, here's your flag, and extend that move. I mean, you're looking, into the 410, 412 area, something like that. So nice consolidation here after the big gain. Now we can watch for either a breakout or at least hold this 405.50 area. Qs, pretty much the same thing. We've got the 2-hour chart here. To my eye, as long as 330 holds, everything is fine. If 330 doesn't hold, then I would look for a move back to the gap here at 327, likely fill it, come and back test this 324, which was a really important level of resistance, which is now support. And you know, that area is an area that I would expect to hold. If it doesn't, then you know, the whole thing kind of looks fake, because once you break out of this range, you want to hold it. And if it comes back and can't hold that 324, then this gap will fill, and then, you know, who knows what happens after that. But at this point, looks like another bull flag. We do have PPO here at the top. I'd like that to flatten out and then reaccelerate higher. We'll have to see. Notice on the Qs, very much like the SPY PPO on the 30-minute chart, momentum coming out, but flattening near the zero line. Looking forward to this move higher. And with futures up 1% in the pre-market, that's going to bode well for a bull cross down here near the zero line. And here we have it with that 330 penciled in. And yesterday, actually, there was a decent trading op. First candle of the day came down and pierced that 330 level, then reclaimed it. That would have been, you know, that's your technical buy signal. Now, you know, it didn't amount to a whole lot. I mean, still a $2 move, which is decent, but just from a technical trading standpoint, that was your buy right there. And you know, if you did get long, that was the low of the day. So you may still even be in that trade. And if you are, then you're sitting pretty with a 1% move to the upside in the pre-market. But just from a short-term trading perspective, you went below support and then you came back above. That recaptures your buy. There were some nice trades on IWM yesterday. We had identified this 224 as being support, and once it broke, that was your technical sell signal, and they just sold it all day long. You can see here that we had 221 identified as support. Once this 224 broke, they, was straight down the whole day. Notice here, you've got a bearish cross on the 2-hour PPO just above the zero line. We'll have to see how that proceeds. If it can turn up here, then it's just going to be a higher low, excuse me, a higher low, and see if it can reaccelerate and take out this high for a series of higher highs and higher lows. That would be, that stair-step move higher. But this 221 has to hold here, or else I see it coming back down in here towards 219. You can see it here on the 30-minute chart. Once that broke, we came down, bounced off of 221 up here to 222, and then rolled over again. Now, in the pre-market, we're up here in the 222 area, probably kind of in no man's land. If 222 can hold this level right here, then I think you could probably be long and look for 224. But a recapture of 224 would definitely be a technical buy signal on that recapture, and then look for a higher high up towards 227.50, 228. But you can see here there's a large volume over price bar, so that's going to be a hurdle at 224. And the thing I don't like about this is, by all accounts, this should have held with that large volume over price. When it didn't, there was that sharp sell-off yesterday. That was a really nice trade on the short side. And that in and of itself is a good lesson for traders. We saw a lot of things moving higher yesterday, yet IWM was selling off. So keeping that flexibility, in your trading mind, that you can have shorts and longs going at the same time with them both working. And that was the case yesterday. Short IWM and long some other names was a great way to be positioned yesterday. And the clue was a breakdown of this support level. Before we get into FANG, I want to thank all you longtime listeners for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. I hope the levels are helping you get some good objective trade entries. Those of you that are new, thanks for stopping by. I hope you see value in the commentary. I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell. That way you'll get all my content that I publish. And then over in the show notes, you can visit the blog site and register for all my content. And that way you'll get a nice email each and every time I send something out. That way you won't miss a beat. I'd really appreciate that. And also, if you have friends in your trading circle that may find benefit in the work, please pass a link along so we can broaden our audience. I'd really appreciate that support. So getting into the FATMAAN names. A lot of strength here, guys. A lot of strength. Facebook. Stay long against 305. We're at all-time highs. All-time highs you got to buy. That doesn't mean you got to buy, this morning. But the horse is leaving the barn. And there were places to get in along here. And if for any reason you get a pullback into 305, that's going to be a buy point. We are starting to get stretched a little bit beyond the 8 and 20 day. So keep that in mind. That's why I'd be a little hesitant about, piling in long right here. But a lot of strength in Facebook. Apple gave a beautiful trading op yesterday. And we pointed it out in the pre-market, and we pointed it out in the trading room, and I hope you got it. And that was this. We said, this 125, which was the prior top of the gap, came back for a back touch of that, a perfect back touch. That was your technical buy right there on the back touch of that gap, and then you got green the rest of the day. Your second opportunity to buy was on the breakout of 127. So those were two nice opportunities. Now today, I looked pre-market, and Apple is above this 128.50 area. If it can hold that, the door's open to this 130 area. Going forward, if it drops back below this 128.50, I would expect a little gap fill down to yesterday's close at 127.90. But at that point, I would be a buyer there. I think Apple's going higher. I think there are tailwinds behind the FATMAAN names, and I think they're going to keep driving. The one name I don't like is Tesla. There was a really nice trading op yesterday. We talked about the gap. It broke into the gap and sold off the whole day. That was, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And yesterday it worked. So if you got short on the move into the gap. You got, you know, 15 bucks. It was 20 bucks. It was down almost 3%. That's a nice move. We got a little bit to go on a full gap fill, and that's what I'm expecting, but it could certainly reverse right here, and I think in the pre-market it's up a little bit. So be looking for something around 670, which is the main pivot. And if price drops below 670, even though it may fill the gap here at 660, I don't think that's $10 you worry about, because to me, the value range is right here between 710 and 670. And you go down and fill this gap and all of a sudden lose that gap support, I think you're down here in the 640s. And actually, if you look at it, there's actually a tiny gap right here. It's not much of one, but it's there. And so on the long side, I think you can be long against 670, but once you drop below, then you can rebuy on a break above 670 on that recapture. But down here, I think you got to wait. I think that whole EV space is getting the air taken out of the balloon. I mean, if you look at NEO and, you know, XPEV and a lot of, you know, battery names, all that kind of stuff, it's all getting a reset. And Tesla may be the main one in the whole bunch to be the one to reverse that sentiment. So I don't know. I'd be real cautious on Tesla. I don't think you need to be, you know, get the bottom tick on it and try and be a hero. What it's really got to do is take out 710. I mean, you know, to really get going. This has been a cap for a month. You know, resistance, 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 resistance. So it's got a lot of work to do at 710. So yeah, you can play for 30 bucks or 40 bucks. That's fine. That's a good trade. But any of you big time swing traders, that's where you really anchor along on a breakout of 710, in my opinion. Microsoft, another really nice trading opportunity, and we talked about it yesterday. If you get a touch of the bottom of the flag, that's a buy, and price gave it to us. It came down here for a back touch of 247 and then popped up. So that you were $3 to the good almost right out of the gate with a really nice entry point. That was just a great setup. Excuse me, setup. I hope you were ready for it. And I hope you caught that. Now for today, I think you stay long against 250. I think what I've done is bull flag with a projected move up into the 256 range. But here's the deal. You could easily make this whole move a flag, because this whole move has been very impulsive. So, I mean, this thing could find 300, really. If FANG decides to really rip. And you got to keep in mind that these names have been dormant since September. Really spent 6 months in the doghouse of just chopping and grinding and doing nothing. We've identified all those ranges, and we've been, doing our best inside those ranges to, make some money, and we have. But now, easier trading follows harder trading, and now that we've broken out to all-time highs with no natural sellers, these names could really go. And this is an example of that impulsive breakout. And we'll see little pullbacks and consolidations along the way, but I think these are going higher. Amazon, free 50 club. Been working every day. Yesterday it worked as well. We opened at 32.20. On the break above 32.50, that was your buy, and you got your $50 move up to 3,300. Today, same playbook. Traders do what works until it doesn't, and the free 50 club has been working. Your technical buy is on a break above 3,300, or if you get this pullback into 32.50, I'd be a buyer there. On any kind of weakness, I'd buy at 32.50 with a stop just below and look for a bounce. Or if price this morning takes out 3,300, I'd be a buyer there, and I'd be looking for 33.50. Google. You could have been a buyer on the, down in here if you wanted to, but that might have been a hard trade. 22.13 was the low, so it never really gave you that back touch of the flag. But you got a chance to buy here on the break above the flag. Not much of a consolidation. If today this pulls back into the flag into 2200, I think you can be a buyer there. I think if it pulls back to 2230, you can be a buyer there at the top of the flag. If that holds, look for a move higher. I can only imagine, I didn't look pre-market, but with NASDAQ up 1%, this is going to be going higher as well. Netflix, we talked about it yesterday. Back touch into support here at 542.50 was a buy. You got that move. That was your technical buy. Now, you didn't get much out of it. There's your $5 to the good up here at 547.50. But that's the way trading goes. All you can do is take your objective entry levels and honestly hope for the best. The technical target here is still 552.50, right? So if you bought that and you still have it, stay long and see if you get this move to 552.50 and possibly even a breakout. If you come back and get stopped out on a move below, that's trading. If you're not in and you get a move back to 542.50, you buy it there with a stop below. Or if price moves up to 552.50 and you get a breakout above that, you can get long and look for 565. Keep in mind that this is an important level. Resistance, support back here. So 552 could be a real launching point to get price up into the 560 ranges. And I'm not sure what the all-time high was. I'll have to check that on the daily chart. But if there's going to be a sticking point near term, it's going to be right here at 552.50. Okay, this is something I really want to point out to you guys. QQQ versus IWM. Massive outperformance in 2019 and really in 2020. Here was the launch. Here's COVID. So we're dividing the Qs by IWM. Here's the launch pad. All through 2020, grinding higher until September of 2020. That's when, Tesla peaked and all the other FANG names peaked. And we all remember that, right? The big rug, the parabolic move, and then the rug pull. And then a couple months later, 6 weeks later, this bar right here, this move, that was the COVID vaccine announcement. That's where, remember that massive gap up in IWM and value? That was this move right here, and then it was off to the races for IWM. So remember, if IWM is gaining ground relative to QQQ, the ratio is going to be dropping. You know, the denominator's getting bigger. So ever since September, IWM has been gaining ground, except over the last couple of weeks. Look at the relative performance breakout right here. That has been as the FATMAAN names, aside from Tesla, have woken up. You know, Facebook, all-time highs. Microsoft, all-time highs. Google, all-time highs and running. Amazon, waking up, $50 a day at least. What's the other one? Netflix, running and chasing towards the highs. Apple, waking up, taking out resistances, grinding away. As long as FATMAAN remains strong and driving, this ratio is going to go higher. And we've seen it in IWM that has pulled back, and it's nowhere near its highs. So no one can predict the future, but what it looks like to me is the FATMAAN names got too cheap. We're heading into earnings. Earnings are expected to be a blowout for these names. It seems like they always are. I think we've got some tailwinds into these mega cap earnings. And just from a technical standpoint, here's your resistance level here at this 1.625. And all the same technical analysis principles hold for a ratio chart like this, just like they do for a a regular bar chart. We can, this would be like a 50% fib bounce. So even if it just comes back up here, that would portend some strong weeks ahead for the Qs and the FATMAAN names. Okay, running a little short on time, so I'm going to blast through these. The ARK family of funds. I got to be frank, I don't like them, and here's why. The names that the ARK families are in general very high valuation names, not a lot of earning support, and sometimes zero earning support. I think money's continuing to come out of the bubble names. Yesterday, Zoom, there was this little thing in the morning where Zoom is going to be included in the Facebook thing where I guess you can get on Zoom and blah, blah, blah. So there were a couple mighty bars in Zoom yesterday, and the option chain lit up, and everybody piled into Zoom for Friday. All those guys got run over because they faded it. They faded those strong bars. And I just think the space has headwinds. ARK got up to this resistance level and sold off. Tesla looks weak. The EV space looks weak. Here's the ARK. What is it? ARK FinTech. Looks a little better. I think it's got a lot of Square and PayPal in it. I'm not so very much down on that sector as some of the other ones. If you wanted to, look at trades, I think if it took out 5450, you could get long. Here's a big volume over price bar. If you could take out that level, I think you could get up to 58. But if you lose 5250, you got a gap here that I haven't put in. And I think you start going on the downhill side. So I'd be careful there. Genomics, bad day at the office, down over 3% yesterday. Man, if you lose 87 here at this pivot, you may be coming all the way back to 80. That's kind of looking far into the future, but just from a technical standpoint, this 87 really needs to kind of hold here, or not a lot below to support it. Autonomous trendline break, rejection at support. I don't think there's any reason to try and be a hero here on the long side. If you want to set an alarm at 87 and get long above that, knock yourself out. That would be a good trade. That would be objective. But down here below trend support with, some of these high valuation names, I'm going to be careful. ARKW sitting here kind of at the same level. As long as it holds this, 151, it's fine. The doors maybe open up here to 159. But if it drops down below, much below 150, I think the door is going to be open back for another touch of 137.50. And this print, this is the ARK 3D printing ETF. Now this one doesn't have options, so for me that takes it off the board. But go look at 3D Systems, DDD. Look at SSYS. Look at X1. Those were all off 7, 8, 9% yesterday, and the charts look terrible. Again, valuation support thing. Not a lot of earnings there. And for me, I feel much more comfortable piling into the FATMAAN names, aside from Tesla, than, messing around with a name like 3D or some of these other names. I think traders are going to that value, known earnings and value support trade. And I'm not saying you need to short ARK. That may not even be called for, but I'd be careful on the long side, because if we do get a pullback in QQQ, I think these ARK names, the bubble names, are going to feel it even worse than the FATMAAN names. So, that's the way I'm playing it. So, let's wrap it up here. Looks like another strong day. Again, as I always say, watch that gap up. And if you see a morning gap fill lower, buy it and set your stop just below. I think there are tailwinds here as we're in the void between now and when earnings season starts. And I think those bull tailwinds are going to push us along, at least until we start seeing some earnings. So have a good day of trading. This has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Talk to you next time.